Every great physics-based games have one thing in common: ragdolls. It makes for fun and unpredictable gameplay. Okay, well, sometimes a bit too unpredictable, but you get the point. So that was the first feature I wanted to implement to my game. So I spent a few minutes making the stickman and running the game. Oh well, that isn't what I wanted. So apparently you have to join the different body parts together. So after looking up how to use hinge joints, I had stickman with ragdolls. Also, I'll be explaining what happened to my other game later in the video, so don't worry. Right now our stickman, which I'll be referring to as Bob, really hates standing, so he falls over every time we run the game. So we'll have to force him to stand by changing his leg gravity force. I know that sounds wrong, but that's the only way we can make Bob stand. After he can finally stand still, we want to make Bob to be able to move, which we also will be forcing him to do so. So after the movement script was done, Bob walked very strangely, but I kept it for now and gave it to the future me to fix. So the next was to again force Bob to jump whenever he's standing on the ground. So we can see that Bob is standing on the ground, but imagine Bob is blind, deaf, and also he is dead. Well yeah, I think if you were Bob, you also wouldn't know you're standing. So to be able to let him know he's standing on the ground, we'll be making a circle collider that checks for any object that is under his legs. So if there is, we say to Bob that he is grounded and give him the ability to jump. If not grounded, well, we do nothing, we just let him fall for infinity. After implementing the jumping, I again was not happy with it as it was very unpredictable. Sometimes he jumps way too high, and I mean it, or he jumps way less than he should. So I'm still trying to figure it out and I'll probably fix it in the future. Actually not probably, but definitely fix it because it's so broken. Now, I read the comments on the previous video and a few pointed out that the previous game idea was way too big, and I knew it at the start of the project of the development, but the whole game idea was actually just for me to try out how top-down works. So I decided to stop the development for the untitled top-down Ark-like survival game. But that doesn't mean I'll never come back to it, as I have actually had a lot of progress since the last video. I've implemented procedural generation and interactions, even multiplayer. I've added so much features, so I'll definitely come back to it. Now I'll tell you why this won't happen to this game. First of all, it's a lot smaller. Second of all, it's gonna be more fun to test as it's a party game with multiplayer and stuff. And third of all, it will have ragdoll physics, which is a lot more fun than animating a sprite. So for the past week I've been just trying to make the player physics just feel better. For an example, I fixed the problem of feeling like the player is just floating by making his legs rotation force a higher number. And now if you jump, you won't fly to the moon and fall back with a spinning head. And to fix that, I just limited the player's rigid body's max velocity magnitude. First, I was worried it might cause problems with the physics, but since I implemented that, I haven't stumbled upon any, at least yet. Now, I have added a friend as there's no multiplayer yet, but I can't really do much besides jumping on his head and pushing him into the void. So I decided to give Bob the ability to grab onto objects like rope and enemy's head and throw him into the void where he can't do anything to stop me. So first I had to make the Bob's arm to stretch out and move where the crosshair was located at. Now after a few hours of trying and error, it was done, well, sort of. It had problems like the hand having no limits, so sometimes your lower arm would just get stuck in your upper arm, and if you don't move your mouse, the hand just falls back down. But how again? That's for a future me. So I'm sort of realizing the future me to do things are really piling up, so I'll try to figure them out, probably and hopefully, I'm not sure. So now stretching your arm was pretty cool as you could just punch enemies. We still had to add the ability to grab on objects. So the way it works is by checking if your arm has collided with an object. If so, it will add a component called fixed joint, which will stick your fist to the object you collided with. And boom, that actually worked the first time. Now I added rope with physics so you can jump and grab on it to get to the other part of the map. And now of course you can now grab the enemy's head and throw them into the void. Well, of course if you manage to save yourself. So now after a week or two, I have made the project in a new file, because this project was meant to see if the game would feel fun, and it did. So now there are some features as the previous project but upgraded with less bugs. So now because I have played the game so much, I've gotten used to the movement. But I'm not sure if it's good as there isn't much games out there with this type of physics based. There is Stick Fight, but it's not really heavy physics based game, so I decided to publish it on itch.io for you guys to test it out. So after you played the game, you can go on comments and tell me how it feels, if you're happy with the movement and the physics, and you can go on and play the game for completely free, link in description. Now that's it for this update. Remember to subscribe and join my Discord server.